Happy morning, dear friends. Here's yours, Dr. Rajanta. Welcome to day 49 session. Today we are just going to discuss the continuation of the OOPS concept, and here it is the inheritance. Dear friends, actually in Python, inheritance is the process of inheriting the properties of the base class, or which we just say the parent class, and into a derived class which is said as child class. In an object-oriented programming language, inheritance is an important aspect. Using inheritance, we can reuse parent class code. Inheritance allows us to define a class that inherits all the methods and properties from the parent class. The parent class or super or base class in the class which gives all the methods and properties. So child class is the class that inherits from another or parent class. In inheritance, the child class acquires and access all the data members properties and functions from the parent class. Also, a child class can also provide its specific implementation to the function of the parent class. And here we are just having the main use of inheritance, that is main purpose of inheritance is the reusability of code, because we can use the existing class to create a new class instead of creating it from the scratch. So here it is the exact syntax, and when we just create the base class or the parent class, you can just make use of that base or parent class. You can just derive the derived class, or which we just say the child class. Okay, dear friends, let me just say it with an example. See here, when we just make use of this inheritance concept, let me just create the first class, which is the base class and which is having the name of that class 1. And here we are having a function, that is the function which is the method of the class 1 is function 1, and it's just going to display that this is a parent class. And when we just derive it from the class 1, and we are just going to derive the exact child class as class 2, and there also we are having one more method where which it just specify the function 2, and this is the class 2 functions. Okay, dear friends, before that I just clear all the output so that it would be fine, and sorry for just making it. Okay, see here, let me just execute this one. See, when we just make use of the class 2, we are not calling the class 1 because the class 2 is derived from class 1. So even though we are just making the function call of function 1 and function 2, and see here, this is the exact output which we have executed, which we just got it. And dear friends, let me just create one more thing, that is a student class by inherited from person class. And person class, yesterday we have just seen the session, that is creating a person, and this is the constructor self thing which we have just creating a name of the person and age, country and city accordingly. And we have two methods, one is person info and add skill. Okay, and with this we are just able to create a person's information, and with that we are just going to make use of the functionality, that is student. Okay, so let I just execute it. So this is what the person's information, yesterday we have just seen it, and let me just make use of it. Okay, before that I just give some of the thing for the P2 also, so that it would be easy for us to have some details rather than an empty. Okay, so see here, so we are just having this, and when we just want to have this as an information, so this would be giving us the exact output of the Yeah, so here it is the name of first person and the second person. But anyhow, as yesterday we have just specified that if you just have a default constructor, yeah, here the she and he, it would be issues. But anyhow, now for the concept, let me just create this and see here, dear friends, we didn't not call the init here, okay, rather than we just making it rather than we just going to make it here in the next deriving functionality. So see here, this is the exact functional where we are just going to give student 1 and student 2, and where we are just giving the student name 1 and student name 2. So both are in the mail. Let I just defaultly convert this, and from this let me just derive the student class. Okay, so here we are just going to make use of the student class deriving from the person. Okay, so deriving from the person, see here we didn't call here the init, okay, the constructor in the child class, because we have just if specified in the parent and we didn't call it, then we can still access all the properties from the parent. But if we do call the constructor, we can access the parent properties by calling the super functions also. See here, dear friends, we are having the exact init functions in this parent. And we can add a new method to the child, or we can override the parent class methods by creating the same method name in the child class also. But when we add the init function, the child class will no longer inherit the parents init function. So when we just make use of that init, kindly just have a note for that. And see here we are just made use of the derived class, and here we just getting that he lives in London and he lives in Manchester, England. So where we just giving only the exact skills and about the person which we have derived as a student class. Okay, fine. Let me just move on to the next concept, overriding parent method. And see here, dear friends, we are just going to override the parent method here. And how this is possible is by making the self problem that you are just going to make use of it in the student class, that is the child class. And see here we are just having the parent, and here we are just going to have it the init constructor. And see here, when we just make use of the same, here you can just specify he if she self is gender is equal to male, or else she. So here itself we have just specified about the gender, and with that we are just going to make use of the functionality. If I just provide the gender is equal to male, yeah, here it is just going to be as a he lives in. And if it is not so, it is just going to be as a female, and that is C. Okay, so let I just make use of this. And see here, dear friends, for Arthur Curry, it is specified as he lives in London, and when it just comes as Emily, yeah, it just gives the output as she lives in Manchester. Okay, let me just move on to the next one. And here I have to add one more thing before going to the next one, that we can use super here. Okay, we can use super function, that is the built-in function where, or this exact built-in function, or the parent name, that is the person's. Okay, so it to automatically inherit the method and the properties of its parent. So in the exact example, we have overridden the parent method, and the child method has a different features. It can identify if the gender is male or not. That was identified here in the child. Okay, rather than making it into the parent, see, I just scroll above for the parent, and this is the exact parent method where for person info we have just make only the he lives. And when we just derived it in the, that is overridden in the child class, here we have just written if the gender is male, we are just going to write it he, or else it has to be SSC. Okay, so that is an added information here. Okay, dear friends, let me just see it with one more example. Here we are having two classes. One is bird, okay, which is the parent class, and the next one is the child class, that is about the penguin. And see here, the child class inherit the functions of parent class. We can see this from the swim method. And here we are just having swim, that is, it is a self, and we are just going to have it's a swim foster. And here we are just going to make use of the super function, okay, which is the exact built-in functions which we just say. And for your information, again the child class modified the behavior of the parent class. We can see this in the form of who is this. Okay, who is this? Here it is overridden by creating this one, and further we extended the function of parent class by making one more, creating a new function, that is run method. And additionally we use this super function inside the init method. So this allows us to run the init method to the parent class inside the child class. Okay, let I just execute it for your information. Kindly have a look of it. Let us see here. This one, bird is ready, penguin is ready. Okay, so here it just comes the parent of bird is ready, and again penguin is ready from the child. And when it just makes it inside the penguin, it is just going to give the penguin and the self thing from the parent, deriving from the parent as swim foster. Because here when just coming to this who is this, okay, we have overridden this as like penguin. Okay, so that is what the third output is just specifying at penguin. After that we are going to have the function from the parent and added function run, that is runs first. Okay, hope you have understood. And let me just move on to the next concept, encapsulation. See, in a Python, encapsulation is a method of wrapping data and function into a single entity. Okay, for an example, a class encapsulation encapsulates all the data, that is methods and variables. Okay, and encapsulations means the internal representation of an object is generally hidden from the outside of the object's definition. And see here, dear friends, using this oops in Python, we can restrict access to methods and variables. So this prevents data from direct modification, which is called encapsulation. And we denote a private attribute using the underscore, okay, as the prefix, that is a single or double. You can also make use of it. Okay, fine. What is the purpose or need of this encapsulation? It's mainly, we have to note that encapsulation acts as a protective layer. We can restrict access to methods and variables from outside, and it can prevent the data from being modified by accidental or unauthorized modification. So encapsulations provide security by hiding the data from the outside world. So in Python, we do not have access modifiers directly, such as private or public or protected. But we can achieve encapsulation by using a single prefix underscore and a double underscores to control access of variable and methods within the Python program. So kindly have a note of it, dear friends. So see here it is the exact program where we are having the class computer, and here it is just having an init constructor and with the methods of sell and set max price. and here we are just going to define a computer class, and we used init method to store the maximum selling price of the computer. We try to modify the price, so however we can't change it because Python treats the max price as private attributes. Okay, here it is the max price as a private attributes, and as to see it, to change the value we have to use this set max price, which takes price as a parameter from the user, or you can just directly give it from the function parameter. Okay, so let I just execute. See here, dear friends, so first when on just making the calling of this cell, we just got the selling price 900. Again, even though the changing the price, here it just specified the max price, that too we just got the same selling price, but when we made use of set max price, yeah, it was updated as 1000. Okay, let me just move on to the next one. See here, dear friends, here. Okay, so in this we have an employee, employee class, and in that we just have a variable of name and salary, and here we are just going to specify the salary as the one among the attributes which we are just going to make use of it in and the constructor. And when on making this show as a self, that is the method, when on calling that, we are don't have anything as the salary because it is a private. Okay, so even though if you are just calling the exact class from the outside and you are just specifying, yeah, Bella, it is 60,000, yeah, how it just take is, it just don't know what is the salary is. It has only the name and it has no attribute for this. And if you just specify print name, yeah, there were no any methods that call the print name. Okay, and it just has the name. Okay, it has the name as like the Vella, so we are having a variable as name, but we don't have the methods of print name, and even though we don't have the attribute for this salary. And kindly have a look, we just got an error here, that is the attribute. So here for your information, we create a class called employee. Okay, we created a class called employee. Within that class we declared two variables, that is name and the salary, and we can observe that the name variable is accessible, but the underscore, that is double underscore salary, is the private variable. We cannot access it from the outside of the class. If we try it, we getting the error. Okay, let me just see the next one is polymorphism. See, actually polymorphism is based on the Greek word poly. Poly is in the sense many, and morphism, it is in the form. So we create a structure that can take or use many forms of the objects. And here I have already specified, we can just make use of this polymorphism by using for multiple forms. Let me just have given you the example, that is one, the student can act as a student in a college and act as a player on a ground and acts as a daughter or brother in the home. So this is the exact role of the student in the college, in the ground, and in the home. So multiple roles. And second, the example to see in the programming language, the plus operator acts as a concatenation and arithmetic additions too. And to the last, if we need to color a shape, there are multiple shape options, that is rectangle, square, and circle. So however, we should use the same method to color any shape. So here what we are just going to do is making use of that. So this allows us to define the class method, That is the child class method with the same name as defined in the parent class. Let me just see it with an example, dear friends. So see here we are having a class parrot, okay, and the next one a class penguin, and commonly we are having a method which we just interface as flying test, and where you can just make use of the bird, which is a common interface. Okay, and see here, dear friends, we have defined two classes. One is parrot and penguin. Each of them have common fly method here. Okay, here also we are just having a fly method, and here also we are just having a fly method. However, their functions are different, because here it is parrot can fly, penguin can't fly, and when coming to swim, yeah, parrot can't swim and penguin can swim. So this is how. So to use polymorphism, we create a common interface, that is flying test functions, that takes any objects and calls the objects fly method. Thus, when we passed the two objects, that is Blue and Peggy, in the flying test function, it ran effectively. That is, see how it just make it. Parrot can fly, penguin can't fly. There's only the fly functionality. We just got it. Okay, let me just make use of the another example which I have already specified. That is, I just want to draw a circle and I just want to make a rectangle too. And see here, dear friends, when coming to the circle, what you need a so when I'm just calculating for an area, we need a pi value, we need radius, and which you are just going to have 2r, which is radius into radius. Okay, and when coming to the area of a rectangle, it is length and width. Okay, so see here, dear friends, we created two classes. One is circle and rectangle. In both the classes, we created the same method, that calculate the area, that is calculate area. And this method acts differently in both the class. In the case of circle, it it calculates the area of circle, where in the rectangle it just calculates the area of a rectangle. So when we just make use of this, so we are just calling the circle, and here we are just going to give only the input of radius. But when just going for rectangle, we have to give two parameters. One is length and the width. And when on just calculating the circles area and the rectangles area, here we just get the exact output. And here I have just listed you the key points to remember. Dear friends, have a note of it. That is, object-oriented programming makes the program easy to understand as well as efficient. And since the class is shareable, the code can be reused, and data is safe and secure with data abstraction. And last but not least, polymorphism allows the same interface for different objects, so programmers can write efficient code. And last but not least, here I have just listed some exercise, and for you kindly make some hands-on onto this exercise. Thank you, dear friends. Have a nice day.